Here's how I made a UK garage track with just one sample.
Bad boy trim on a bad boy thing.
This challenge came about to me pretty randomly, to be honest. It just popped in my head. I said, you know what? I've always seen people make a song with one sample. I might as well try it. I had my friend pick a sample from my sample library, and he finally chose like this one. What the fuck is that? So for the most part, if you loop a sound with a really small loop, you can make something that sounds like a synth or an oscillator. So now that that's out of the way, and we understand that type of concept, let's talk about the drums. For this kind of style, I know that swing is a must. So I went in and I did what I could with what I had. I ended up coming up with this drum pattern. So first we have the kick pattern. Then we have the snare. Typical snare on the 3. Then we have some hi-hats on the offbeat. And also got some hats going at 16th notes. And those are swung. These are swung as hell. And then I have a layer of all the top drums, just pitched down an octave. So, you add up all of those things together, and you should have something like this. So you're probably thinking, yeah, that's cool, but drum pattern, okay, simple, we could do that. How the fuck did you make a kick? Or how did you make a snare with these samples? First thing I want to break down is the kick. For the kick that I'm using in the song, I want to show you how I made it. And I want to show you how you can make your own as well. So first, you want to get your sample and you want to loop it really, really fast, like I showed you in the beginning of the video. I'm going to be using sampler for this, but you can use simpler, you can use granulator, any sampler that you have, it's going to do the same exact thing. Now I want to add a pitch envelope. This is what's going to give it that, like a kick. From here, I'll pitch it down to somewhere I like. It really doesn't matter where, just use your ears for this one. For processing the sound, I just used a transient shaper, and I've used the fuck out of it. I used stab for this one. I basically just put the transients all the way up on all the bands. This one's a multi-band transient plugin, but you can use a normal transient plugin, whichever one you want. It doesn't matter, it's the same exact thing. Here's what I did when I put them all up. I just duplicated this exact plugin like 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you have something that sounds like this. All I did from here was pretty simple stuff. I just put a filter on it so it sounds more like a kick. And then I used some glue compression. I pulled the threshold back a lot and then I pushed the gain, push it and give it that punch that it needed. Next thing I thought I should do was this. I added an Ableton preset. It's called Kick Tight. This thing's really good for the low end. It's something, I don't know what it really does. It's like a resonator or something that adds low end. I don't know. And after that, some glue compression. Another glue compressor. Doing the same exact thing, just different little parameters to wherever I felt it should be. Now let's move on to the snare. The snare was very simple, very basic stuff. I just shortened the original sample, so it sounds more like a transient. And then after that, I added another layer. And it's offset just a little bit, just enough so it sounds more like cluck instead of ka. And then for processing these sounds, it was pretty simple. Just put a little transient shaping, some glue compression, a little bit of EQ, and should call it a day. For the second layer, I added a grain delay that every time it hits, it should sound a little bit different. And for the hi-hats, I wanted to see if I could make them sound a little bit more noisy instead of the original sample. So I put it in a sampler, and the first thing I did was, there's this tab, this oscillators tab on sampler. If you go to it and you click oscillator and then you put up the volume, it starts to sound like noise. So I applied that concept to the rest of the hi-hats, and this is what I got. Now it's not a UK garage tune if it doesn't have good bass in it. First sound I'm going to break down is this one shot. This is going to be a very simple one shot to make. For this instance, I'm using granulator for the sound, But like I said, you can use sampler, simpler, anything that has a FM in there. So the first thing I did was I made sure that I'm looping really fast so it sounds like an oscillator. And then what I did was I automated the FM. If you go in Granulator and you switch to a tab, you can turn on FM and you can get certain different results with that. In this case, I automated the FM so that it's like a whoop. From there, it's just up to you, up to your taste and how you like your sounds to be. I just added a tad of reverb and called it a day. With the second bass, it was even more simple. I just duplicated the Granulator, so it's the same preset, it's the same thing. The only thing I did was, instead of automating it like I did with the other sound, I have it going up so slightly, and you get a sound that sounds like this. Pretty simple, same exact stuff, just different iterations. And then for the third sound, this one is a little different. Sounds like this. The key is amp. If I take off amp, this is what it sounds like. Now you turn amp on. So it's really up to you, whatever you want to do. That's pretty much it for the basses. That's how I made a bass out of one sound. And then when it comes to effects and little things like that, little iterations, I did the same exact thing. Except I added a fuck ton of reverb, probably some delay, most likely some EQs, you know, just some stuff to get shit moving, maybe a phaser, maybe chorus. It all depends on what you want to do. If you guys want to learn more about advanced topics on sound design or just, you know, want to learn some new stuff, you can go check out my Patreon. I'm always uploading on there. I upload sample packs, video tutorials. They're raw, they're uncut, so you really get to see exactly what I'm doing. If you want to go check it out, it's going to be in the link in the description. Go crazy.
Bad boy trim on a bad boy thing.
If you've made it all the way to this point, I appreciate you. Seriously. I love. But for fuck's sake, leave a like, subscribe, stop being a fucking weirdo. Just do it. Don't not do it. You just sit there, take the information, and fucking leave like a fucking pan.